Um, so tonight on the agenda, we have the property at 13905 Interstate Highway 10. The property has two zoning categories. There's a C3 and a C4, and they both require a special use permit for an automobile sale. This is the site that the group wants to discuss tonight. And I'm gonna transfer over to the applicant so they can start with their presentation.
You good? Okay, I'm Scott Crabtree from Boerne. I've got with me Danny Hart, who's in charge of our community relations, and Ben Cam, who builds all our buildings. And we have Joseph Root, who's the engineer. Are you there, Joseph?
Yes, sir, I'm here. Thank you.
Good. And appreciate you all giving us the opportunity to speak with you today. And we'd like to tell you a little bit about ourselves. Once you move to the next slide. Yeah, we want to share with you who we are, how we operate, and show you what we want to do to the property and answer any questions you may have. I'm going to play a video for you that gives you a little bit of flavor better than I could tell you verbally.
In order to truly be successful in a community, it takes more than just one person. And we've had the luck of having many leaders in this community since we've opened our doors here at Honda of Tomball, and we thank them very much.
Well, the Greater Tomball Area Chamber of Commerce appreciates Honda of Tomball for its partnership because together we are stronger and we are a much better community because of Honda of Tomball. Their doors are always open, very congenial to our community. Everybody knows and loves Lenny Gonzalez. And Mike and some of the other team members. They come to a lot of the Chamber luncheons and networking events.
TEAM is a Christ-centered nonprofit serving our neighbors in crisis in the Tomball community. Well, after over 30 years in ministry, TEAM held its first ever fundraiser in 2018, and Honda of Tomball was the top Heart of Gold $10,000 sponsor for that event. What was really fascinating to me was that they didn't even have the dealership up and running in Tomball. The building didn't even exist. And so here they were sponsoring us.
There are other things in the community that Honda of Tomball supports, but the ones that are closest to my heart is Rotary Club of Tomball and TEAM, and I feel like we can always go to them when we need assistance, and they're always welcoming to help us out any way they can.
We value all our local partnerships and are committed to supporting our community all around us as we grow.
So that illustrates that we're a 104-year-old company, and we operate like a family, and when we come into a place like Boerne, like Tomball, we actually have a member of our team that becomes part of the community, lives in the community, and does their best to make a difference in the community. So it's not just a matter of doing business. I go to the next slide for me. So we have core values and guiding principles, and we talked about growing and developing people. Somebody like Lenny started as a lot attendant, never worked anywhere else, and has become a dealer and an important member of the Tomball community. Number two, their commitment to excellence, our culture, constantly trying to improve the kind of service that we can deliver to the customer, and also help our people grow and develop. We do a particular community outreach program. I'll let Danny tell you a little bit about that.
Sure, thanks, Scott. And one of the scenarios that we had more than a year before we even broke ground at Honda Tomball. Unfortunately, Hurricane Harvey hit. And within hours, the managing partner who saw Lenny Gonzalez, who was working in our Honda store in Chantilly, Virginia, did a video quickly. We reached out to the local Bruce Heldegeist, the president of the Honda Tomball Chamber of Commerce, and he was the one that introduced us to Tomball Emergency Assistance Ministries. And we've had a great relationship ever since. The video that Lenny did immediately within hours, the good news about social is it went viral very quickly. We raised $10,000 within 3 days. Within 5 to 10 days, we had raised almost $27,000, of which we were able to give directly to the local community. And it's the unfortunate scenarios that sometimes create the biggest bonds. And we've been very tight with the community in whatever the support they've needed for our relationships.
Yeah, we do about last year we did $2.2 million. So we do over $2 million every year back in the communities where we do business. Number 4, we do service. One of the key parts of our service that separates us from other dealers is that we have a just bring it in policy. You don't have to have an appointment. You don't have to make an appointment. And we try to fix most of the cars in an hour or less. We're running between 60 and 70% in most of our dealerships. One of the things that may make that significant to you all is that reduces traffic to a dealership. What a lot of people don't realize is that an automobile dealership is a low traffic generator. And we make it even lower. Average age of car on the road today is 12 years. When you think about somebody buying a new car every 12 years, that's not many trips to the dealership. Something else that we do, we are now delivering. There's a lot of people shopping on the internet these days, and we deliver in some dealerships between 10 and 20% of the cars. The customer never comes into the dealership. Number 5, we build world-class facilities. Ben, you want to address that?
Yeah, thank you for having us tonight. On our dealerships, when we do our lighting, and I know that's most important to y'all, is that where we adjacent any property, we have a lighting photometrics of the areas. And then what we do also is we'll have a motion sensors in the lot where if you went back there to get a car, the lights would come on. Possibly out of 10, 7 of them would come on, or 6. All depends on how we would do it. And then the lights as we leave, they go off within 10 minutes so that the light isn't staying on adjacent to all the properties that are in the back. Also, what we do, we have fast track doors. They go up in 3 seconds, come down in 5. So at no time does the door stay open. Nobody hears any of the mechanics or anything else. All of our shops are air conditioned. Also, what we do different than any dealers, we use scroll compressors, and we put our compressors inside the building. That's how quiet they are. And that way, nobody hears a reciprocating compressor that sounds like a train going down the track. We also super insulate the buildings where no sound goes outside. And we always keep in mind with our adjacent neighbors or anybody, when we're building buildings, I always give out my phone number. Also, the builder that I'm working with, they would give out their number. And then through the years, as we take and turn over the buildings, the general manager and managing partner give their numbers. So at any time there's a problem or whatever, you have somebody to talk to.
Good. Thank you, Ben. This is the original founder. I say a 104-year-old company. The gentleman on the left is the original Mr. Bohenke. Sleeves rolled up, pants dirty, providing service to customers, and we've carried forward that mentality that enabled us to last for 104 years. Let's see, the things I talked about that would be concerning to the neighborhood would be traffic. I said low traffic generators, and we do things that even reduce it more. the light pollution, the noise pollution. I think Ben's touched on those issues. Next slide. Just our leadership team, we try to retain our customers, we retain our team members. I spoke about Lenny earlier, flip over to Sandy. Sandy was switchboard operator in our dealerships, and she moved into our Salisbury location in '99, so she's been there 23 years. She was president of Chamber of Commerce during part of that time. She's on the board of the hospital, board of the university, and she actually was the one that developed our Pohanka pay policy. We did over $2 million last year to 1,200 different charities. Next slide. Yeah, so this slide right here demonstrates, if you look at the top right hand, actually go down to the bottom. This is behind our Chantilly dealership, so you can see above the tree line there that those are roof lines for 4-story apartments. And those 4-story apartments, we have a 10-foot buffer. We're going to put a 20-foot buffer between us and the houses in Boerne. And if you look at the middle picture on the right-hand side of the street there, that is the 10-foot buffer. On the left-hand side of the street is the townhouses. Top picture shows townhouses. Those are $800,000 townhouses. They actually built them next to the dealership. We were there first, and they ended up selling out before they broke ground. So the neighbors didn't view us as they view us as a good neighbor. Next page is our Honda Tomball. There's not much of a buffer there. As a matter of fact, the dealership, the main street into the apartment complex, top picture on the right-hand side, goes right through the dealership property. If you look down the bottom left-hand corner, you see the fence there. That's just an open fence. And actually, this is a picture. Lenny moved into the apartment there when he first went to Tomball. He lived there for 2 years till he married a school teacher and bought a house about a mile from the dealership. We have a good relationship with them. Next page. We are very close to a church in our Chantilly operation, 31 years. We're very supportive of them and they of us. The number 2 there, Fields, this is the apartment complex that you saw the roof line above the tree line. Cecile Polanco, who's the property manager there for 14 years, says she never had any issues. We are good neighbors, and she actually has lived in the apartment complex for 14 years. Next slide. That is the no tree vision of what we are building there. Joseph, do you have the one with the trees?
Yes, we do. Ben, if you want to pull that up just to show them just contextually what the existing trees are and what we're trying to do to preserve those trees.
Now, what we've done, we've moved the building.
Sarah, am I able to share my screen?
Okay. Go ahead, Ben.
What we've done, we've moved the buildings up all the way as close to the front road facing I-10 as we could. We would like to go a little bit closer, and you can see that we've taken it up to the maximum where the setback regulations are.
Yeah, potentially we would move it 20. We could move the building 20 feet closer to the road and 20 feet farther away from the houses. If we could get a waiver, if the city agreed to that, we're willing to do that. We also try to preserve most of the trees between the dealership and the houses, as opposed between us and the street. We anything else about that, Joseph?
I may add just a couple of things. Again, my name is Joseph with Burgess and Eiffel, and as Scott's team is been in business over 100 years, so has our group. So we have a really good relationship with the folks throughout Texas, throughout the nation here. But on this particular project, I think, Scott, the big thing is that there is a nice buffer there now. We'd love to preserve it. There's 20 to 25 feet there on that landscape buffer. City requirement, we initially tried to push the site further to the front, kind of to match in next door, but they did tell us that there was a 30-foot landscape buffer required. So we revamped our site plan as such, shown on this page, to allow that 30-foot buffer. If we can go down 10 feet, slide it up a little bit, that would give us a little bit bigger buffer, another 20-foot of buffer along the rear property line and next to all the single family folks and the Boerne Crossing Phase 2. Currently, as shown on this site plan, just to get a perspective about the distance and the relationship of the back fences from the single family to the Honda dealership, that's roughly 300 feet. So if you can just imagine the distance of like a football field, it's from that back fence over to the back of that dealership there, and providing maybe some additional trees back in the back there to help buffer that. But that's a pretty good distance. We can get another 20 feet or so if allowed, but that would have to be taken, our understanding is, by a variance, and any support from assisting us on that'd be awesome. But I think it would make sense to do that, but it would require us to do a little variance as we go through the process, the SUP process.
Joseph, could you mention some of the underground detention we're taking
Sure.
from the properties so that we don't end up putting like a sediment control area with a
Sure.
detention that would be like for mosquitoes or whatever? We're taking everything, including all the runoff from all the adjacent property owners of the houses into ours. So go ahead, Joseph.
Yeah, so the way this site drains topographic wise, the single family to the west side, the rear of all those homes that are back there, you're at the top of the hill, the single family folks are. So that water, we would have to accept their water, that rear yard, that's the way it was planned. We'd be picking up that their runoff, taking it through our site, basically along the parking lot areas, pick it up in some storm drain systems, and then prior to releasing our stormwater runoff into TxDOT's roadway frontage, there's a newly graded bar ditch out along the frontage road there. And our site drains from the, kind of west to the northeast. We'll have most likely a single discharge point at and along TxDOT's right of way. And we're going to provide underground detention and also stormwater quality prior to, and what that means is underneath the parking lot, we would be capturing that stormwater runoff, providing open barrels, potentially mostly probably CMP pipe that'll be connected to hold the stormwater runoff, that developed flow, hold it down to existing condition rates so it doesn't overburden the system out in TxDOT's right away. And we'll also provide stormwater quality elements within that detention, but we would be accepting all the offsite water that's currently going there, picking it up, running it through our site, cleaning it, and then releasing it out into TxDOT's right away at the northeast corner of the property. Does that kind of gives you a feel of how this might, how that storm drain system might work through our site? But that's the conceptual plan that we have to date right now.
Let's see, one of the things
Just so you guys
that
could
one
keep-
of our previous pictures, we won't go back and look at it, but when I showed you the street and the townhouses on the left side and the buffer on the right side, technically we were supposed to put a sidewalk down that side of the street, but we worked with the county and with the citizens and determined that it would be better to leave the trees undisturbed. And you see it is a very thick green buffer, and there's no sidewalk on that side of the street. And so that made sense. We like to do things that make sense. we are willing to put up a fence. I think we have it drawn in there. We're
Correct.
willing to put up a fence between us and the neighbors, but when Joseph and Ben and I went back there, we noticed that all the neighbors have substantial fences, and their properties are about 4 feet higher than ours, 3 feet.
Correct. In some
Joseph?
location, in some location. Yeah.
Most all of
Yeah,
them are higher than ours, and so it might be worthwhile to leave those trees undisturbed. And we added that. I think Nissan only has a 15-foot buffer. We added a 5-foot additional buffer, and we're willing to leave those undisturbed and not have the buffer disturbed. Next, anything about this? Any questions?
Just so we have like the information clarifying, the variance for the setback, is that something that you guys want to request to move the building beyond the minimum setback requirements for the entrance corridor? And that landscape setback, that would be considered by P&Z, and that would be part of the SUP request. So I'll need all that described so we can talk about that during the P&Z presentation to make sure whatever your intention, very clearly, whatever you're presenting here can be explained and discussed during the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. Okay, now all manufacturers have an image program, and so we have a picture of Honda's image program. Yeah, there it is. A lot of glass, modern. I mean, they do it because they want people to recognize that there is a Honda dealership there. Now, you do have 50,000 cars, and it's probably going to grow driving up and down I-10 every day, north and south. So, and businesses in most of the places that we are in support, pay the main, but they bear a big portion of the tax burden. So I think the more people that stop and spend money in Boerne, the more tax we can pay, and the less maybe the citizens have to pay. So we'd like to recognize it as a Honda dealership. So closer to the road, closer to the cars, easily recognized, I think would help us. That's it for us. Questions, comments?
Does anybody that is online have some questions? I have a couple of people that are online on the phone. I'm not sure if they want to unmute themselves and ask anything. While I don't see it, I'd like to talk to you guys about some of the information you shared. So the variance part for the setbacks need to be addressed on the application, with that being pretty described, so we can talk about it. The rear setback that you have over there, it is in compliance so with the current code. So whatever, if you want to push it forward, all that stuff, I believe the neighbors would be pretty happy. Everything that you can leave as far away as possible from their house, they normally are in favor. The buffer also helps. On the side that you presented, you're talking about the fence height being 8 feet. I wrote myself a note here to double check on that. We do also have fence height requirements, but it's a commercial to a residential, so that probably will allow a higher fence considering the difference of the topography. Probably that will also help on that, but I will get back. Probably I'll send you, Benito, an email tomorrow with all the information you asked and some other stuff. I also think it's important to point out to the neighbors that those are two separate lots. And are you guys going to be developing all at once, or is it going to be phase one where the dealership is and phase two, the track that is on the north side?
Most likely it's going to be a phase one and a phase two. It may make sense to do some development with the stormwater management system. And we will figure that out as we get into it in more depth.
Yeah, as we discussed, like the idea of presenting the SUP for the whole thing, it makes it easier in the long term, but it's important to point that out to the neighbors that it's phase one and phase two, so they understand the progression of the development. You guys will have the 85% of maximum impervious cover. You're probably going to have to send all those numbers that once staff is going through some of the revisions and all that, but it looks like it's pretty close by. I haven't tried to calculate it today.
Yeah, sir, we have those just in our conceptual plan. This is Joseph. We do have just the preliminary numbers for the open space, and currently the Honda lot, the lot one on the bottom, we're sitting about 19.84%. We counted everything, we all the impervious area. I think required we have to be at least 15%. And then on the north lot, which is the lot two, we're hitting around, I think, 29% open space. But as we update the site plan, we'll make sure to incorporate those percentages on there, and even provide you, if you need a CAD file that shows PDFs that shows it highlighted, just so you can verify all of our numbers.
Yeah, no, I just haven't had time to do it, but yes, I'm pretty sure it is there. It's 85% high percentage, but I just want to make sure you guys are aware that at the end of the day, that's going to be verified. The drainage part, impervious cover, is going to be addressed better during the building plan, so engineer will be better to discuss on that part too.
Okay.
But I don't have any comments about the site. It's just what we discussed before. The fire lanes are according to the fire code. We have all the access and all that stuff that it was discussed.
All right, thank you.
Anybody has any other questions? Going once, going twice. Well, with no questions for tonight, thank you guys for logging in and presenting this to us. As I mentioned before, the video is going to be posted on the city's website tomorrow. You can click on it, watch it again. If you have questions, we will be, the item will be presented on the P&Z June 5th meeting. I believe that's your guys' plan, and we're sticking to it. I just need to solve some of the questions that I have with Benito to make sure we have all the information, but I think we're pretty good at making sure it's going to be on the next P&Z agenda. We're going to be sending out paper notifications to the neighbors later this week, so if we hear anything, we'll let you guys know. Yeah. I believe I covered.
And again, we just want everyone to know that we want to be good neighbors. We're there, and everything that we do will be with them in mind.
Yes, and those are the things that it's important when you start developing in the community. Boerne is really community oriented, and that is really important for them and the city council members and all that elected officials too.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you
Sarah.
for having.
Thank you.
Thank you guys, and I'll talk to you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Sarah. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.